All right, good afternoon. It is Tuesday, June 14th, 2022.
Gabby talked, she says, I want to.
It is 4 o'clock, so we will get this show on the road. Call to order for the Personnel Human Services Committee meeting, Tuesday, June 14th, 2022. Call to order, please.
Johnson,
Roll call, sorry. Here.
Krieger,
Yes.
Fox,
Here.
Begic,
Here.
Coonan,
Here.
Radke,
Here.
Harris,
Here.
Warren present.
Right. And now we'll go over the minutes of May 10th, 2022.
I'll move them.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, those minutes are moved. Opportunity for today for public input. If anyone from the public would like to speak, they are welcome to do so. Come in, write your name, address, and try to keep it to 5 minutes or less. All right. Seeing no one come forward, we'll move on to petitions and communications. First item of order is from the Bay County Executive.
So moved.
Support?
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion on the Juneteenth as a federal holiday? Commissioner
I'd
Begic.
asked a little explanation from Tiffany about how this came about and the timing of it and short notice. Unless Mr. Marshall wants to take it.
If I could, well, Tiffany, I'll turn it over to you, and then also Judge Sharon's here to give a little background, but the counties were sort of taken by surprise on the short notice that the Michigan Supreme Court ordered all the courts in Michigan to honor and pay for a, federal holiday known as Juneteenth, and the history is sort of in the resolution, but we have two experts here, and Judge Sharon and Tiffany, of course, and it will be kind of an unanticipated expenditure because our essential workers will receive triple time for working on a federal holiday, corrections, juvenile home, deputies, and the other essential workers. So I guess with those remarks, I'll just say it was unanticipated, but every county is facing it, and about 81 of the 83 counties have weighed in with all the other county administrators, and we received a lot of emails, and the counties were frustrated that they didn't have a little more time to plan, especially for those of us in the middle of negotiations with all the bargaining units that comprise the county workforces here in Bay County and across state. So with those remarks, I'd ask.
Thank you, Executive Barshak.
Okay, Judge Sharon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Begic, I'm here to address that question, and I thought someone might bring it up. Unfortunately, I don't have a good answer for you. I really support the holiday and marking Juneteenth. I think it's important as a country and as a community that we do that. Unfortunately, though, the way the state Supreme Court went about this was not very typical and gave us scant notice. We, ironically, were given 19 days notice that we're to have a holiday. There is a provision in the court rule that we could vary our court holidays to coincide with the county holidays, which we do in every other case. So I inquired about that, but was told that the word had already come down from the Supreme Court. Don't bother, none of those requests will be granted. The courts are going to be closed, and we're going to have the holiday. It's very unusual. There were some dissenting opinions on the Supreme Court when they voted on this for the very reasons that concern everyone here, the short notice and no one considering the costs of it. Yes.
So June 1st, you said 19 days, so you had court cases probably scheduled and other things scheduled and.
Oh, yes. I personally was scheduled to be on vacation. I was going to Yellowstone, but that's not working out too good either. If you've seen the news, it's closed. So I didn't have to reschedule anything, but everybody else did. So it was some disruption.
So it was a federal holiday as of last year. I was doing some research on it. So the state does the state have to pass that? Is that required? I mean, the courts sort of took it on themselves to do it.
The courts took this on themselves to do it for all the courts in the state, to follow the lead of the federal government.
I don't believe that's usual protocol, is it?
It's
I
not.
mean, at least they would give us notice for our labor agreements too, so we can have that
Right.
set up ahead of time.
Right, and that's, I'm here because I feel somebody should apologize to everyone for the inconvenience. It certainly was not a well-thought-out plan, and so I do apologize for that. It's
I was at Mountain
foisted on all of us.
last night, and they are observing Juneteenth, which is a week from today, because it's really the 19th, but it's moved back a day. So I'm probably going to support the resolution, but it wasn't handled, I don't think, in the proper manner.
Yes, and as the county executive stated, it's a problem for every county in the state. I talked to my regional court administrator, and right after I got the notice, and he said later in the day, he told me that all his 25 counties all called him, all the courts from those counties called, and everybody was caught unawares. So I do apologize that this is coming from the courts, but locally, we're just powerless to do anything about it.
For the audience, do you want to give a little history about the holiday?
Oh, sure. Well, we love our freedom in America, and when the Constitution was ratified, a lot of people were left out, and not only left out, but left in chains and slavery, and counted as partial citizens. And it's continued a history of some hundreds of years of people being brought here and put into captivity, and we're, of course, still living with the repercussions of that. When the Emancipation Proclamation came down, it freed the slaves in the states that were then actually in armed rebellion against the United States of America, and so everyone supports that nowadays, but it's not to say there's not repercussions. I mean, it's officially slavery was done away with, but we had the Jim Crow eras and a long, sad history of racial discrimination in this country that we're still trying to come to grips with. You see how it tears at the fabric of our society even today. So I think it's awesome that we are going to celebrate this. It's an odd way it came about. Juneteenth came from Galveston, Texas, when the word of the emancipation reached there, and they decided to mark it with a holiday, which is over all this time now spread throughout the country. And rather than celebrate it on the actual day, I think it's nice also that we can celebrate it at the time that Afro-Americans, black people in this country, have chosen to celebrate it. So I think it's very appropriate, and I support it wholeheartedly, but
Nowadays, it wouldn't take a lot.
planning would have helped.
It would be quicker nowadays, though,
Yes.
than 2 years. It was 2 years before they got the,
I'm sorry?
no, it was 2 years before they got the notice.
Yes, it was, yeah, well, it didn't happen overnight, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. Any other questions for me? Okay, thank you. I appreciate your
Thank you, Judge.
allowing me to speak.
Executive Barger, did you?
Thank you, Judge Sharon, for the history and also the perspective that you brought to the discussion today. I was wondering for the board if Tiffany Jerry could be recognized to explain the repercussions with our other county employees who are not directly impacted by the Supreme Court order, but because their order only applies to court employees. But maybe Tiffany could explain what kind of repercussions we'd have with the rest of the county workforce and the feeling that we should try to treat everyone equally in the county government infrastructure. So
Sure. Because of the late notice that we've received, obviously, we're in collective bargaining agreements with all of our local unions. That doesn't expire until the 31st of this year. So we will have to reach with different letters of understanding to recognize that and to provide that paid time for this year, and we'll have to put it into the contracts next year. The difficulty that the county has is, while the court may be required to be closed, we have employees, outside of court employees that work out of that facility. So you have some steel workers, and you have some B camps, and you have some, and you can't give some of them a holiday and other ones not. So in an effort to treat everybody equally, sort of if it's good for one, it should be good for all. The 24/7 facilities historically have less paid holidays in their collective bargaining agreement, but we felt that it's not necessarily fair and equitable to them to have them keep going backwards further than if we're adding it to other groups. So I think it would have a negative employee morale issue on top of the other collective bargaining issues that we would see.
We charge that back to the Supreme Court? Probably not.
Commissioner Krieger.
So our total expense is going to run about $50,000, is that correct?
Yes, the additional expense will run about $50,000, and it's all dependent on who works that day. It's for the facilities that, the law enforcement, the juvenile care facilities that are essential services that have to work on the actual holiday.
So obviously, we'll need a budget adjustment. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Thank you, Executive Barsha. Thank you, Tiffany, and thank you, Judge Show. That was fabulous. So, seeing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so we'll move forward with that. Now we come to probate court reclassification of position from a day treatment assistant position to an intensive probation officer.
So moved.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Krieger.
Yep, I do have a few questions. Afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So we actually have an individual that's moving, that's in this position to the juvenile home?
This individual, the individual that vacated this position several months ago is already at the juvenile home.
Okay.
Yep.
And so we have somebody within that's going to move into this position that's going to be at a different grade and have different responsibilities?
No, I will have to post and hire a new individual to fill this if we reclassify it.
Okay. And so the question I have is, when I read it, it talks about that individual that had that position was spread pretty thin, needed more help. I guess I'm just concerned that we're just kind of moving people around and we're changing the pay grade, but in reading that some of the responsibility is thin, I don't see where we're adding anybody, or maybe the workload's been reduced.
I guess I'm not following. So when this individual vacated this position and it freed up the money that's part of this reclass, we then looked at, okay, let me back up a little bit. So this is a result of the Raise the Age legislation, which some of you are familiar with because I've been here to present on it previously. So of course, when that legislation was enacted, it was in the middle of a global pandemic. So we didn't have an influx in cases or 17-year-olds committing crimes in Bay City, or they were doing it in the dark. That has changed. We received 44 petitions last month just for juvenile delinquency cases, 29 of which are 17-year-olds. So those kids who would have matriculated into district court are now the responsibility of juvenile court. So when the individual that held the assistant day treatment program position vacated it, it provided Judge Minor and I an opportunity to look and say, okay, where do we really need the resource here? And it's as a probation officer. We don't have enough people right now to cover the number of kids that we are getting on our formal docket, which means they are formally charged. They're not on a program where they don't get someday they won't have a criminal record. So These are kids that have to be seen on a weekly basis by an intensive probation officer who are provided our most intensive services, who are in our most intensive programs. And I need an additional person to help offset the increase in juveniles that have come under our jurisdiction.
So if I'm understanding what you just tried to tell?
I know, it's,
I'm just trying to see if I'm following it appropriately. So you had the day treatment assistant position.
Correct.
That was vacated, and they
Correct.
moved into another position.
I would like to technically reclassify that position into a probation officer position.
Because that person already vacated out, you don't
Correct.
necessarily want to fill that position, but you want to change it.
Yes.
Even though it's already vacant, because there's no one in there.
Correct.
Rather than just refilling a day treatment assistant position, you want to classify it as an intensive probation officer.
Correct.
So you wouldn't be hiring back a day person, you'd be getting that position, so that's what you're.
Correct. Yes.
So, and a lot of that funding's done with grant money, correct?
Yeah, so this is a 50% reimbursable by the child care fund, which, you know, I don't like to just hang my hat on that because I know that's not always the most important thing. What I will have to do if I don't have the opportunity to utilize the child care fund is pull a probation officer who's currently child care funded at 50% back out, which means instead of a small increase in contribution from the county for this reclassification, it'll be 100% because that person will no longer get any state funding. They won't be eligible for the 50%. They won't be eligible for the 100%, which is allocated for 17-year-olds. So any 17-year-old that comes in under the jurisdiction of the court is 100% reimbursed from the state. So we're actually seeing a greater increase. I wish I could show you that, and I probably will be able to next year. It's that the legislation's just too new. So I don't have a lot of those numbers in our reporting yet.
Well, you know, we've always had a policy that if we lose grant funding, that position would be gone, but it sounds like because this is so new and the demand on these 17-year-olds is only going to grow, I think.
Right.
That we won't have to worry about you coming and saying, gee, I've lost my funding, now we have to go to the general fund to fill this position because it's
Right.
needed.
Yeah. And Judge Minor and I have really been honing in on a lot of the programs and services. We're really trying to utilize a lot of the staffing we already have so that we cover a lot of things like co-pays for mental health services, family therapy. We're trying to pull a lot of that in so that we can reduce cost in other places, so that 5 years down the road, if something else changes, you're not looking and saying, but you guys aren't doing anything to decrease the cost of the county. We really are trying to be fiscally responsible.
Okay, I'm satisfied, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I know I'm over here confusing everybody. It's easy for me because I do this on a regular basis, so I apologize if I'm just being confusing.
I think you got it.
Yeah. Brittany, would it be fair to say, while the request uses the word reclassification, what you're really doing is you don't need the day treatment position
Right.
anymore. What you need is a probation officer.
That's
So
correct.
You're sort of getting rid of one position and replacing it with a probation officer rather
Yes.
than reclassifying that position up to a probation officer.
Yes, that's
Is that what it
correct.
means? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Anything else?
Sort of off it a little bit, but it's a cost factor. Did they lose any insurance they have when they go into the juvenile home? Do they carry any, like Medicaid coverage when they go into the home?
No, because when I also report our 17-year-olds every month to the state, and we get 100% reimbursement for their medication at the juvenile home, their food at the juvenile home, bedding, all of that. So there was
Covered that.
that legislation included that gap language, yeah.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Anything else? Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right. Seeing no further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
All right, that will move on. And now we get to the Director, Department on Aging, ARPA funding awarded from Region 7.
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We'll move that forward. And now we move on to directives or petitions under the health officer. Number one is master agreement funding allocations from the state DHHS for fiscal year 2022, 2023.
So moved. Support.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And then we'll move that one on. Now to the Title X grant, seeking authorization to apply for grant funding.
So moved. Support.
Been moved and supported. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We will move that forward as well. And now we come to the Retirement Administrator, Military Service Time, Ronnie Johnson, looking to purchase 3 years of active military time.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we'll move that one forward as well. And then finally, we get to our Personnel Director, Budgeted Vacancies, Central Dispatch, and the Health Department with the WIC program.
Support?
Been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, and we will now come to the conclusion of our petitions. Are there any referrals? Any unfinished business? Any new business? Closed session, I don't believe that's required at this time. Miscellaneous? Commissioner Krieger.
Thank you. So I didn't see it on this agenda. Last week I had asked for an update on where we're at. Oh, we forgot. Thank you. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be confused with Ron Begic, heaven forbid, he's old. So I'm hoping that next week at our full board, that'll be on an agenda item. So I'm getting nervous because we have budgets that are coming up, and I'd like to be able to go to that individual that will have, a little more information that I would have. Because if something happens that I don't agree with, I want to be able to blame someone. And right now, I don't have that ability. So, thank you.
I understand. Thank you. Commissioner Begic.
Today is Flag Day,
It is.
but it's not a national holiday. Why not? They're celebrating it at 6 o'clock at the Elks Club, 1400 North Henry. 6 o'clock, they'll have a ceremony. They do it every year. They've been doing it for many years now, a flag ceremony. So if you're interested to come by.
Is that the one that used to be at the beach or at State Park Drive?
It's up by Latitudes down where the.
Yeah, I know where it is now, but where did it come, where was it at?
Yeah, they moved. They've had a couple different locations. They've been there a couple of years now, but
Okay.
that's on Henry.
Yeah, next to the pizza place.
Yeah, across the
Yep.
road. Yeah.
I know where that is.
Yep.
Not too far from where I used to live, a long time ago. Any announcements?
Thank you,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Chair. On Saturday at Bay County Animal Services, we had a vaccine clinic. Some staff came up from All About Animals, which is the facility that we use for all of our spay and neuter programming. And they came up, did a vaccine clinic in conjunction with the Humane Society of Bay County. And initially, we were scheduled from 10 to 2 o'clock, and it went to 3:30. There was that much of a demand. Staff there vaccinated over 300 animals. And they wanted to make sure that everybody that was there had their animals vaccinated, so they stayed after till 3:30. And it was a tremendous event. We'll probably look at doing another one because the turnout was so tremendous, and some very positive feedback both with All About Animal staff and the Humane Society. So it was a very good, positive event.
Outstanding.
Thank you, sir.
And thank you to you and all the staff that participated in that and stayed after to make sure everybody got taken care of. That's amazing commitment. Thank
Sure.
you. Yes.
There's beagles over in Midland, I heard. A lot of beagles. They got a shipment in, so if anybody wants a beagle, I don't know if
They
we've got
have a
any
few,
from them,
yeah.
or if you're going to get some from them or not.
No,
But,
no, there was it sounds like this was a direct thing with them and another agency, and, it sounds like they had quite a project with beagles ranging from, it was a few weeks to, a few years old, so a lot of beagles right now.
plus, Mr. Barsha was recognized on the radio by the Humane Society for the kill rate. I think it's at 56% and 96%. It was I think it was somebody with the Humane Society was speaking.
Yeah, thank you, Vaughn. I'm really appreciative of the great cooperation between the shelter and the Humane Society, working together on a number of projects. And I'll be a guest of Art Lewis tomorrow for his program on WSTW. So thank you. I didn't have a chance to hear that one. Thanks.
Well, thank you both. No, thank you, Craig.
Mr. Chair,
Oh, wait, hold on, I got a few announcements here before you get to yours. Before you get to yours, all right, so I want to make sure everybody else had their opportunities, so I got a few things here. So, super exciting time for sports, especially in Essexville Garber. Garber's soccer team, girls soccer team fell to number 1 Williamston, 5-4 in double overtime. Amazing game. The girls got down to the number 1 team in the state, 0-2.
Is it shootout?
Well, no, what happened was, so they were down 0-2, and they came back, got it to 1-2 by halftime. Then they tied it up at 2-2. Williamston immediately, like just right after, went up ahead 3-2. So everybody's down, and next thing you know, Lauren Walker comes through with an amazing shot, ties it back up to go 3-3. And then she came through with another one to make it 4-3. And there was a brief period of time where it looked like they might take the top team in the state and move on, but Williamston tied it up, then it went into double overtimes. They scored the goal ahead in the second overtime with about 3 minutes left. So just an amazing game. The girls played so well, so just amazing work. But hats off to them. Great run, especially for that group. They won 3 different district titles. But Garber softball actually won the regional title for the first time since 1997 this past Saturday. They defeated number 8 Linden, and just about as dramatic as the girls soccer team. They were down 0-2 in the 7th inning, came back, scored 4 runs, and then they closed out Linden. Then they had to defeat number 3 Frankenmuth. They read 3-0 till the 6th inning. Sarah Baskett, who had pitched all the innings of their games in these playoffs so far, ran down to first base and came up short with her calves and her hamstrings cramped up on the way down to first, and she dropped like a stone. And she had to go out and pitch the bottom of the 6th and the bottom of the 7th. Just rough shape. What a warrior. Just amazing stuff. And they ended up, they pushed 2 runs across the plate in the bottom of the 6th, and it looked pretty dicey. She got the first batter out in the bottom of the 7th. Next person got on, and then they got on. They just crushed one in the gap. Got on first though, and then the next batter up hit a hot drive to second base, and they doubled her off at first to finish the game. And it was a good thing it did, because she was limping visibly as she was trying to push off when she was pitching. So, but today they defeated Country Day 8-0 in the quarterfinals out at Saginaw Valley. So they'll participate in the semifinal matchup in East Lansing Saturday at 3 p.m. between either the winner of Trenton or Center Line. So hopefully good things for them. When we meet again, God willing, maybe we can have a state champion there. So. Oh, and not to be outdone, the robotics team was actually honored in Lansing today for them taking home their district championship it was May, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so awesome stuff all the way around. And now, did you have something you wanted to say?
yes, Mr.
Krieger?
Chair, I'd like to move to adjourn.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? No? Then this meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Thank you all.
We didn't.